When you woke up this morning, what were your first thoughts? Did you ask, what does this day hold for me? What's possible today? What can I create? The idea that anything is possible is an idea that I've held on to, one that I've made my own, and one that has inspired me to action. It's pulled me through all of the ups and downs of my life and has ultimately brought me to where I am today, here on the Isle of Man, the place I now call home. When you speak to non-Manx folk living here, and there are many of us, you'll hear many different stories of how we came to live on the island. We are always asked the same questions. Why the Isle of Man? What brought you here? Are you happy here? What brought me here? I could just say work and leave it at that, and I often do, but that's only part of the truth. There is a backstory that spans my whole life, and so I never know how much to give away. That story is a shared story, and so I'd like to share it with you this evening. I'll start at the beginning. I'm lucky to be alive, and indeed standing here right now. When I was 18 months old, I was in a horrible accident. I was burned by oil, which left me with third-degree burns. I was put into an oxygen tent for 2 weeks, and then nursed for long after by my mother. The burns covered my right side breast and a section under my arm. And so when I was 11, they had to operate to cut the tissue to give me full use of my arm. The surgeons did a really good job, and I'm very grateful that the state paid for the surgery. But I've been left with these scars that cannot be healed or improved. And I've looked for different technology, but acceptance of what is has helped me deal with this. That there are values in voids. And I've had many. Pre-teens, I struggled to feel safe and secure, and had some pretty dark days. For a period of time, around about the age of 6, I was sexually abused by a close family friend. And this was my life. No one knew. When I was 8, my parents divorced, and we were then moved to a city 7 hours away from where we were living to go live with my aunt and uncle. I moved there with my younger brother and sister, and we lived in fear. My uncle was abusive, and it was a time where I didn't think that anybody loved us or anybody cared about us. One day, we were left waiting after school, and no one came to fetch us. We waited till late in the evening, on the side of the road, just the three of us, till eventually neighbours to the school came out to ask what was going on. Eventually, they called the police to take us home. Thankfully, we didn't stay there long. 6 months into living in this different city, my grandmother sent my father up to come fetch us. And so we were moved back down to Durban to live with my grandmother and my father. My father relied on my grandmother for support. He was a gambler, sold almost all our stuff, an alcoholic, and smoking 2 packs of Camel cigarettes a day. His health was poorly too, so this just compounded things. I didn't like the way I felt he used my gran. In fact, it made me angry. It was the catalyst for my early realization that surely everybody must be responsible for their own lives. Surely everybody's responsible for their own actions. This just didn't look right to me. Had he not been who he was, had he not been that way, I might never have had that realization. I might not have decided to own my own path. So I thank him for that lesson. My teenage years, and that of my younger sister and brother, were spent in a children's home, with the move there being sealed by a request from me at 12 to tell a family court judge that I didn't think my mother was fit to look after us. She was sitting in the chair next to me, It broke her heart. And for me at the time, I felt like it was absolutely the right thing to do. Life in the children's home was hard. There were 60 other children at any given time, and we were all fighting for attention. My brother and sister and I were different, not because we wanted to be, but because we were. I felt like nothing I achieved was ever good enough or of any significance. Sometimes they would say, "You Ashdowns think you're better than everyone else." I don't think we thought we were better. I just think we wanted to be loved. I do have some really good childhood memories though, and they are all around the time that we spent in the theatre. My grandmother was the opera manager of the theatre from the town where I'm from, and so we were there in all our free time. It was literally our playground. My grandmother was the one stable thing in our lives at that time, and I'm really grateful that she was there. Also, having access to a piano in her home meant I could teach myself how to play piano. I'm lucky that I had an ear for piano, because otherwise everyone would have hated that. School was a place that I could feel safe, and I found in some teachers a mother. And I think that's what drove me to want to do well, to want to be praised. I felt safe there. Being in the school and youth choirs was a whole new experience for me, to be part of something bigger and to sing and to do this thing that I loved. I'm thankful for those first experiences that inspired my first songs, and grateful too for the people that helped pay for the international tour I went on with the youth choir. That was a life-changing experience. After school, I got in with the wrong crowd, and it was one big party. But I could see that it would not end well for me. I was not being true to myself. I had forgotten about the things that would bring me joy, my music. So I made a really tough decision to cut ties with people who I thought were best friends. That was really hard to do, but I absolutely needed to do it. I turned my life around, and not long after that I met my ex-husband, and my life did a 180. As a couple, we excelled, but I had to give up my music. I felt I needed to do that for the marriage, to make that picture what I thought a happy picture meant. He even sold my piano to make space for his fish tank. Over time, we did really well. We owned our own home, both had good cars, good jobs, 2 dogs. It was really the dream. But I had realized slowly over time that I was not in that marriage. There was nothing of me in it. And I had to make that really hard decision to walk away. It was painful. After 8.5 years of marriage, all of my 20s gone, it was the hardest thing I've ever had to do. At the time, I was working for an amazing company that allowed me to innovate and create, and they invested a lot in me. When I went to them with my divorce situation, they rallied around me at a time I felt hopeless. They moved me to the Isle of Man in 2013, and it was a matter of months between knowing I would divorce, to getting divorced, to on a plane to the Isle of Man. It all happened so fast, and it was scary, leaving everything you knew behind, coming to a place you'd never dreamed you'd ever be at. For what? Possible failure. When I arrived here, I felt like I'd come home, and I settled quickly. I went through some amazing highs and some very rocky lows. 10 months in, my position was made redundant. I was devastated. After everything I had just been through, to now be faced with this. I knew I could not go back to South Africa. And after falling into this dark place, I sought help. I went to the person who is now my best friend in Mirror, and she counseled me from her bed after just having had back surgery. And we sorted out my head and my heart. A couple of months later, I lost 2 people who were very close to me, and that was very hard. But despite that, I ploughed on and looked for work. In the end, I went for a company that made me feel safe and secure and really went out of their way. I felt like that was my actual fresh start. I persisted where others might have given up. Now, I've mentioned that I have this thing for music. My friend said to me, Eleri, music is absolutely the thing that brings you joy. You should be doing more of that. And I have. Boy, have I. I can safely say I'm living the best days of my life right now. And that would not be possible without the people that have been around me. I have made new friends and connections through the music, and they've helped me make my dreams come true. So, there is obviously this important message that I want to share with you this evening. The story that I want to share, my life story, a shared story with many. It's not unique. Anything is possible. Doesn't matter where you've come from, what you have or what you don't have. Change is constant. And if you can believe, if you can hold on to that idea that anything is possible, you have the power to own your destiny. But the journey doesn't end here. Change is constant, as I've said. Life happens. I'm not perfect. I'm probably going to make some mistakes. But that's okay. I'd like to invite you this evening to ask yourselves, what do you really want? And then I'd like you to believe that anything is possible and ask, what if? This idea that anything is possible is an idea that inspires me, and I hope it inspires you. Thank you.